I once had to move 30 students from admitted to waitlist in a single day. I literally cried about it. What I'm about to share with you just might shock you. Listen, as a former college admission officer at Vassar, I can tell you that I've seen thousands of students get rejected simply because they just didn't understand how decisions are made. About to share with you isn't just theory or generic advice. It's actually the behind the scenes, closed door reality of how elite college admissions really works. Between the months of December and February, admission officers actually literally have applications for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, meaning that we were reading somewhere between 25 and 35 applications per day at about 10 to 12 minutes per application. This might shock you that 10 to 12 minutes was how we determined someone's future, but that's the reality of how this process actually really works. And understanding this completely changes how you should approach the college application process. The truth about academic evaluation. Let me walk you through exactly what happens when an application arrives on an admission officer's desk. First, we turn to the academic portion of the application, the transcript. At Vassar, we focused on the 5 academic food groups: English, math, science, social science, and foreign language. Now, here's something crucial that most families don't understand. So art doesn't count unless it's an AP, religion doesn't count, and certainly PE doesn't count either. We boil everything down to what we call the academic core. It might sound harsh, but this is how elite colleges evaluate academics. When reviewing grades, at Vassar, we had a specific system. We used a 12-point scale. 12 was for an A+, and 11 was for an A, and so on. I would literally sit there and circle all the grades in order to recalculate the GPA based on our method. So the GPA that your school calculates for your child might be very different than what I call the admissions GPA. Now, let me tell you about a document that most families don't even know exists. When I had the application open in front of me, next to it, I also had a copy of the school profile. The school profile was the way that we understood the context in which you come from. It gave us information like the demographic information, GPA distribution, average test scores, and it also lists the colleges to which students from your high school have been admitted to in the last 3 to 5 years. This is what I call the Bible for admission officers. I always had a copy of the school profile in front of me. Now, I can tell you most high schools have a school profile, but there are a few that don't. The profile changes the way we evaluate each application in the context of their school. Literally, I would look at how many honors that you took, how many APs, and if you had IB courses, I would circle those up. But then I would quickly turn to the school profile and look to see, well, how many were offered at your school? So for example, if you took 3 honors out of 6 that were offered, I would put 3 over the number 6. Now, looking at APs, you might have taken 6 APs out of how many were offered. So if it were 6 out of 25 that were offered or 6 out of 10 that were offered, I would list that. But I took that information directly from the school profile. The information on the school profile as to how many honors, AP, and IB courses are offered is extremely helpful to help us understand, again, the context of who you are, what you're taking, and the rigor that you're taking. The information gleaned from the school profile as to how many honors, AP, and IB courses are available to you helps us to understand the rigor that you are taking in relation to your peers. The real decision process. Once we evaluated the academics, we then moved on to the personal qualities, or what I term as PQs. Personal qualities include letters of recommendation, your personal statement, the resume or activity section. All of those things I'm taking a look at, and I'm also going to take notes on what you did and how you impacted your community. Here's the crucial part that most people miss. 60 to 80% of the pool, they were all equally academically qualified. So the AQs, academic qualities, only get your foot in the door. But it's really the PQs, the personal qualities, that are going to help you stand out and actually help you get admitted. Let's take, for example, the list of activities. Colleges are looking for impact leadership over involvement. For example, if they were the student body president, the editor-in-chief of the yearbook or the newspaper, a team captain of a major sport on campus, a Girl Scout Gold Award winner or Eagle Scout, a state or national champion, or like if you're curing cancer. In today's world, that might be translated to becoming a content creator with 100,000 followers, or creating a business where that actually generates, tens of thousands of dollars in revenue. Once all the files were read and notes were taken, we then moved on to what we call committee season. Every day, there were 2 committees happening, and there were decisions being made for each and every applicant. The files were organized alphabetically by school and then by student. So one by one, I would read off my notes to the committee based on what I had written, and then the committee would ask me questions. Without fail, the first question was always, what is the student taking this year? That was code for, are they taking a rigorous curriculum? Are they still taking the 5 academic food groups? It was also like to make sure that there was no senioritis happening. So once that was out of the way, they would then proceed to ask questions about the personal statement, the letters of recommendation, and the list of leadership and involvement. Now, let me share something that most people definitely don't know happens in an actual admissions committee. Once the committee was done asking me questions about the applicant, and we were ready to vote, everybody would just hold up the card that which they were voting, whether it was a red for reject, a yellow for waitlist, and a green for admit. Once everybody held up their cards as their vote, majority ruled and the decision was final. Just like that, boom, a decision was made. Sounds so harsh, right? I know. The final stage that most people don't know about. Here's something I rarely share with people, mostly because it's very sensitive. But if you're here, I'm guessing you really want to know how this works, and I applaud you for becoming a student of this process. So let me tell you what happens at the end of the road. Every college has a target of how many they're going to admit, what percent of the applicants they're going to admit. So it might be 20%, it might be 25%, 30%, it might be 5%. In my case, let's just to use a round number. Let's say it was that year, it was 25% was our target acceptance rate. Just before we get ready to print the letters and announce who's been admitted or waitlisted or denied, there's something that happens that we have to readjust our numbers. Let's say our target acceptance rate was 20% that year, that we needed to admit 20% of our applicant pool in order to yield the number of freshmen we want. If I remember correctly, there were 7 of us in the office. Each of us were responsible for a certain region in the country or a certain part of the world. So for me, I had California, Florida, half of Texas, and then Kansas and some other states. So I was looked at by my region. So if I happen to have an acceptance rate for my region at 22% versus 20%, that meant I had to move students from the admit list to the wait list. Now, I realized that they would actually never know that they were once admitted and now moved to the wait list, which also made me sad. But also, I had to take comfort in knowing that if a student was admissible to a place like Vassar, then certainly they were going to land on their feet. I remember my first year as this rookie. The biggest lesson I learned is just how thin these margins are. Like literally, a 20% acceptance rate versus a 22% acceptance rate, it made all the difference. I mean, look, think about it. Like that's 30 students. I mean, that's crazy. In the grand scheme of how many applicants we had, it's a small number. But, the margins are very small. So making it from, the wait list to the admit is a huge deal. For me, when I work with private clients, I'm always like, I don't like the wait list. I feel like it's like limbo. But certainly students who that I work with that get on the wait list, we help them get off the wait list. But I often just say, if you can just make the application strong enough from the get-go, you'll get into that green pile. So that's always the goal. So what does all of this mean for your child's application? Understanding this process changes everything. The academic achievements are just the baseline. The real differentiator really comes in the personal qualities and the unique context that each student brings to the table. You need to understand what gets written gets reviewed, and what is omitted from the application is omitted from review. So just remember that the onus is on the applicant, not the admission officer. In another video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what it takes to stand out in those critical 12 minutes of review. If you want to make sure you don't miss that video, be sure to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. And I'll be sure to pop back in and give you all the insider scoop. And if you have any questions about anything I've shared here today, please pop those into the comments. I like to read every comment, and it also gives me great ideas for what else I should be teaching you about so that you have the insider scoop from start to finish. All right, everyone, remember, be committed, get admitted. Until next time, wherever you are, may you have a happy and sunny day. Bye for now.